Imagine waking up in a world where time has stopped, where your body lies motionless, yet your soul moves freely. A place where you see what others cannot, where light so divine embraces you, or darkness so terrifying engulfs you. Many have spoken of near-death experiences, but when these experiences align with Islamic teachings of Jannah, paradise, and Jahannam, hell, they become more than just visions, they become warnings, signs, and glimpses of the unseen reality. Imagine waking up in a world where time has stopped. Your body is lifeless, yet your soul moves freely. You are neither in this world nor entirely in the next. The air feels different, lighter, purer, or perhaps heavier, suffocating. Some see beauty beyond imagination, while others fall into an abyss of horror. Many who have had near-death experiences describe visions eerily similar to the Islamic descriptions of Jannah, paradise, and Jahannam, hell. Could these experiences be mere hallucinations, or do they reveal glimpses of the unseen reality? A young man from Egypt was declared clinically dead for several minutes after a severe accident. His car had flipped over multiple times before coming to a halt. When the paramedics reached him, they found no pulse. For nearly 7 minutes, he was gone. When he was revived, he came back gasping, his hands trembling, his eyes filled with both awe and fear. Doctors assumed it was trauma, but what he described left everyone stunned. "I found myself in a place I cannot describe with words," he said. "It was vast, infinite. The air was filled with an overwhelming peace. I heard a sound, like the most beautiful recitation I have ever heard, but it wasn't just sound, I could feel it in my soul." He described a river of glowing water, reflecting colors he had never seen before. The trees were unlike anything on earth, their branches swaying as if reciting the praises of Allah. I saw people in white garments, their faces shining with light. They smiled at me but didn't speak. I felt like I belonged there, like I never wanted to leave. This young man had never been particularly religious. He prayed occasionally but was more focused on his career and social life. Yet, after this experience, he returned as a different person. He began praying regularly, giving charity, and seeking knowledge about Islam. When asked why, he simply said, "I saw something that I don't deserve yet. I need to work for it." On the other hand, a man from Turkey, who had suffered a heart attack, shared a completely different experience. As his heart stopped, he felt himself being pulled downward. The room around him faded, and suddenly, he was in a place of unimaginable terror. "I was surrounded by darkness," he recalled. "It wasn't just an absence of light, it was alive, like it was swallowing me." He described hearing screams, piercing cries that made his soul tremble. There were shadows moving, figures writhing in pain, their faces distorted with horror. "I tried to run, but I couldn't move. Then, I felt something grabbing me, dragging me deeper into the abyss." This man had always lived carelessly, indulging in haram without a second thought. After being revived, he spent the first few minutes screaming, "Save me! Don't let them take me back." When he realized he was back in the world of the living, he broke down in uncontrollable sobs. From that day forward, he abandoned his old ways, turned to prayer, and sought forgiveness for his past. Such experiences are not just isolated cases. There have been countless reports of people across different cultures and backgrounds experiencing similar near-death visions. What makes it even more intriguing is how closely these accounts resemble the descriptions found in Islamic teachings. In the Quran, Allah describes Jannah as a place where rivers flow beneath, where there is no sorrow or pain, only eternal bliss. The believers are promised palaces adorned with gold, companions of purity, and an existence of everlasting joy. The Prophet Muhammad spoke of Jannah's gates, its trees, its scents, and its rewards for those who lived righteously. Likewise, Jahannam is vividly described as a place of unbearable torment, flames that never cease, food that neither nourishes nor satisfies, and a regret that will never fade. The people of Jahannam will cry out for relief, but their cries will go unanswered. A man from Pakistan who had been in a coma for days had an experience that changed him forever. He was a businessman, obsessed with wealth and power. He rarely prayed and was known for his arrogance. Then, a sudden stroke left him unconscious. During those days, he found himself in a vast desert, endless and scorching. The heat was unbearable, but what was worse was the thirst, he recalled. No matter how much I cried out, there was nothing to drink. I saw people running, screaming, but no one helped anyone. Everyone was lost in their own suffering. Then, he saw a wall. On the other side, he glimpsed a garden so lush, so beautiful, that it hurt to look at it. He tried to cross, but a voice told him, "You have not earned this." At that moment, he woke up, gasping for air. He immediately called his family and begged for forgiveness. He started praying 5 times a day, sold off his haram businesses, and dedicated his life to charity. Some might argue that these are just hallucinations caused by the brain shutting down. Science explains near-death experiences as a mix of oxygen deprivation, neurological activity, and subconscious memories. But what science cannot explain is why so many of these experiences align with the descriptions found in Islamic scriptures. Why do people who never read the Quran describe the bridge of Sirat, the gardens of Jannah, or the punishments of Jahannam? A teenager from Iran who drowned while swimming described a sensation of floating above his own body. He watched as people tried to revive him, but he felt no attachment to the scene. Instead, he found himself in a place that was neither light nor dark. I was standing at the edge of a massive pit, he said. There were people inside, crying out, reaching up, but they couldn't climb out. They were stuck. Their faces were filled with regret. He then heard a voice, "This is not yet your time." In a flash, he was back, coughing up water, gasping for breath. He had always been indifferent about religion, but after that day, he became a devoted Muslim. "I don't need proof anymore," he said. "I saw enough." Another woman from Malaysia, who had been in a car accident, described a vision of an angelic presence. It wasn't a man or a woman. It was just light, pure and overwhelming. The presence did not speak, but she felt her entire life being played before her eyes. She saw her good deeds and her sins. "It was as if I was being shown who I truly was," she said. "I realized I had wasted so much time on things that didn't matter." When she woke up in the hospital, her first words were, "Astaghfirullah." She knew she had been given another chance. Are these experiences proof of the unseen? Or are they tests, warnings from Allah for those who have strayed? The Quran repeatedly reminds us of the unseen world, urging us to believe before it is too late. Many who return from such experiences do not need further proof. They know, deep within, that what they saw was real. Could it be that Allah, in His infinite mercy, allows certain people to witness these glimpses to remind the rest of us? Perhaps these stories are not meant to be dismissed but to awaken our hearts before our own time comes. Because when death arrives, there will be no second chances. An elderly woman from Indonesia, a devout Muslim, shared her experience after being revived from cardiac arrest. She spoke of meeting a figure of immense light, who asked her a single question, "What have you brought for your hereafter?" She realized she had spent her life accumulating wealth but had neglected her prayers and charity. She begged for another chance, and at that moment, she awoke in the hospital, gasping for air. From that day on, she dedicated her life to prayer, helping the poor, and seeking forgiveness. Similarly, a man from Saudi Arabia, who had always been skeptical about the afterlife, found himself in a dreamlike state after a coma. He saw a massive bridge stretching over a deep, fiery pit. People were trying to cross, but many stumbled and fell. He saw those who had led righteous lives glide effortlessly across, while others struggled and ultimately plunged into the abyss. "I woke up sweating, and I knew this was the Sirat, the bridge described in Islam. It wasn't just a metaphor. It was real." These experiences are strikingly similar to Islamic beliefs. The Prophet Muhammad described the questioning in the grave, the light for the believers, and the darkness for the disbelievers. The bridge of Sirat is mentioned as a test, where only the righteous will cross safely. Are these visions mere hallucinations, or are they warnings given to those fortunate enough to return? A teenager from Pakistan who nearly drowned saw a place beyond human imagination. It was endless light, warmth, and the fragrance of flowers I've never smelled before, he recounted. He saw people smiling, their faces glowing with happiness. A voice told him, not yet. When he woke up, he felt an overwhelming urge to change his ways. He had been neglectful in his prayers and disrespectful to his parents, but after his experience, he turned towards Islam with renewed faith. Conversely, a woman from Iran who overdosed on sleeping pills described a chilling encounter. She found herself in complete darkness, hearing voices whispering in agony. She felt something pulling her down, suffocating her. Just as she thought she would be lost forever, she saw a faint light and reached towards it. When she regained consciousness, she was in the hospital. From that moment, she devoted herself to repentance, convinced that she had been given a second chance. The Quran states, "But you prefer the worldly life, while the hereafter is better and more lasting." 87:16-17. Many who have seen these glimpses of the afterlife return with a profound transformation. They realize that wealth, status, and worldly pleasures mean nothing in the face of eternity. These experiences serve as reminders that life is fleeting, and the real journey begins after death. Could these stories be divine interventions meant to guide us? Perhaps they are reminders that Jannah and Jahannam are not distant concepts but awaiting realities. Those who have seen them, even for a moment, return forever changed. The question remains, do we need to experience the unseen to believe, or is faith enough to guide us before it's too late?